I was trying to do something there that hadn't been done. I thought that I had figured out the algorithm mathematically, and I thought that I could show that. And when I wrote it out to kill the careers of the people I was talking about, right? But it was so vicious that I erased all of the knockout blows and just left the jabs so that the comic I'm talking about knows that I know your real story.
Tale that if you're talented enough, grind hard enough, and catch a little luck, you'll make it big. That dream gets sold everywhere, non-stop, like it's guaranteed if you just want it bad enough. But Katt Williams says that whole story is straight up cap. According to Katt, Hollywood doesn't really run on auditions or talent. It runs on gatekeepers. Powerful people behind closed doors decide who moves up and who stays invisible. And once you're chosen, the price isn't always money. Sometimes it's way darker than that. Katt Williams hints that 9 black actors allegedly had to pay a disturbing price tied to control, obedience, and silence, all just to keep roles, protection, and fame. No contracts the public ever sees, no receipts on paper, just whispers that refuse to die. And here's the wild part. Rumor or truth, these same stories keep popping up decade after decade. Same patterns, same power games, different faces. So who are those 9 names Katt was talking about? Let's step into the darkest list ever linked to Katt Williams. The final name hits the hardest. Kevin Hart, the dresses, the humiliation, and whispers of a deal that changed everything. The so-called king of Hollywood comedy. Kevin Hart is one of the richest, most influential figures in American entertainment. A classic came from nothing story, or so we're told. But Katt Williams claims Kevin didn't climb alone. He was lifted. That lift came with a price that wasn't small or clean. In his explosive interview with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay, Katt didn't just label Kevin an industry plant placed by powerful executives. He hinted at something far more unsettling, something people in Hollywood don't want talked about. To reach the top of Hollywood, Katt Williams says you always have to give something up, and it's never something money can buy back. In comedy especially, the grind is the unspoken law. Years on dusty stages, empty bars, bomb sets, non-stop rejection. Katt lived that life. Dave Chappelle lived it too. But according to Katt, Kevin Hart didn't. Katt describes Kevin's rise as unreal. Blink and you miss it fast. In just 2 years, Kevin was everywhere. Movies, tours, TV, non-stop exposure. Katt started questioning the invisible hand, giving Kevin that constant push. Somebody was moving pieces behind the scenes. Katt didn't hold back when talking about the 2008 movie Fool's Gold. He said that role was originally written for him, not Kevin. But the role went to Kevin because, as Katt put it, he listens better. That wasn't competition, Katt said. That was selection. This is where Katt connects it to something deeper, something darker, something Dave Chappelle has hinted at before. The dress theory. Katt pointed out how major black male comedians, from Martin Lawrence to Eddie Murphy to Kevin Hart, all end up wearing a dress on screen at least once. According to Katt, that dress isn't about laughs. It's about control. It's about breaking the ego and sending a message from the gatekeepers. If we can make you do this in front of the world, we can make you do anything. And when Kevin put that outfit on, Katt claims the Hollywood elite got the signal loud and clear. This one is ready. He will not resist. That, according to Katt Williams, was the real price of entry into Hollywood's inner circle. Katt dropped a serious bomb when he explained why he walked away from massive contracts while Kevin Hart took them. As Katt put it, I turned down $50 million 4 times to protect my integrity. He made it clear, Kevin accepted conditions Katt refused. And in Hollywood's underground talk, demands don't mean money. They hint at behavior artists don't publicly discuss. Katt suggests that protection from powerful figures comes with a heavy cost. He claims some artists are expected to take part in disturbing rituals where control replaces consent and personal boundaries disappear. That claim hit harder after the Diddy scandal exploded, with details about private parties shaking the industry. Suddenly, old clips of Kevin Hart appearing next to Diddy started circulating again, with viewers pointing out his quiet, submissive energy. For many people, that only fueled theories of a power-driven control system.
He smiley sit here and you said out that mouth, you stole Friday after next, the one I was in. I wish all of America fumbled a bit when that happened. He told everybody, it should have been my role. Everybody on the scene. Why do you think no cast member has ever said anything?
In his January 2024 interview with Shannon Sharpe, Katt Williams made a chilling prediction. He said, all powerful deviants will suffer in 2024. He added that every lie would be exposed, whether it was Diddy or anyone else. Months later, those words went viral when Diddy faced lawsuits and legal pressure in March 2024. Kevin Hart responded the way many celebrities do, mockery mixed with silence. He posted about spreading love and staying focused on work, but to those who believe Katt, that felt like sidestepping the issue. The question still lingers loud and heavy. Did Katt Williams make it all up, or is something darker hiding behind Hollywood's smiles? Why has Kevin Hart never filed a defamation lawsuit? That question keeps echoing louder every time Katt Williams speaks. According to Katt, this clash was never personal. It was ideological. Katt stands as the outsider who chose isolation to stay clean. Kevin Hart represents the opposite path, the man who accepted Hollywood's rulebook to reach billionaire status, no matter the cost. With the industry already shaken by secrets surrounding Diddy, the story of Kevin Hart wearing a dress doesn't land like a joke anymore. It feels like a symbol, a lens into a brutal truth. Katt suggests that to sit on Hollywood's throne, sometimes you're expected to leave your soul at the conference room door. And if Kevin Hart was planted from the very start, as Katt claims, then the next name he brought up is even more disturbing. Way darker, way scary, ludicrous, and what Katt calls a deal with the devil Illuminati narrative. In 2024, the world froze when Katt Williams sat across from Shannon Sharpe, calmly took a sip of his drink, and then detonated a verbal bomb aimed straight at Hollywood's so-called New World Order. But to understand why that moment hit so hard, Katt says we have to rewind over 20 years, back to a time when something was already being prepared behind closed doors. A blood-bound agreement in the making, an invitation from the other side. In the early 2000s, Katt Williams and Ludacris were both rising stars. Voices of rebellion, symbols of power in the black community, that's when a mysterious invite arrived. Not to a studio, not to a party, but to a closed-door meeting. A meeting with what Katt described as a secret circle of elite gatekeepers who quietly control Hollywood itself. Katt Williams described the room as cold and lifeless. No flashing lights, no glam, just men in dark suits and one heavy offer. We'll give you the world, they said, but you have to give up what matters most. Katt recalled that moment with a dead serious stare. Two paths were laid out plain and simple. One path meant keeping your soul and getting crushed by the system. The other meant signing the contract and becoming just another piece on their board. Katt says he chose freedom. And the moment he walked out, everything changed fast. His career started getting blocked. Arrests popped up. Media stories questioning his mental state started circulating. Katt claims that was the punishment for saying no. In his words, that's what happens when you don't play along. Ludacris, according to Katt, made the opposite move. He stayed. He chose the spotlight. He chose the massive checks, tens of millions overnight. And Katt insists that's when the ritual began. Not long after that meeting, the public saw a completely different Ludacris. The famous braids, gone. The rugged beard that screamed street respect, erased. That transformation shocked fans everywhere. Katt says this wasn't a style switch or a rebrand. He claims it was a ritual of submission. Cutting the hair, shaving the beard, proof of loyalty. In underground symbolism, hair represents identity and power. Removing it sends a message. Katt says they wanted him smooth, safe, harmless, like a plastic figure ready for any Hollywood family movie. According to Katt, that moment marked the shift. Ludacris was no longer viewed as a dangerous rapper. He was now fully accepted by the system. Katt Williams claims that from that moment on, Ludacris became a fully commercial product, tightly managed by powerful executives. The reward for submission came fast and heavy. Right after the haircut, Katt says what followed was unreal. Ludacris was pushed straight from rap fame into the massive Fast and Furious franchise. No slow climb, no detours, just a rocket launch. Overnight, he became a global movie star. Money poured in. Fame wrapped around him everywhere he went. But Katt says he could see through the shine. According to him, every role, every award, every red carpet moment is just crumbs tossed back after something far more valuable was taken. Katt insists that while Ludacris smiles for cameras, he's actually living inside a golden cage. A place where every word, every move, every public step has to be approved. Success with invisible strings attached. When Katt brought this up on Club Shay Shay, Ludacris tried to clap back with a freestyle recorded in the studio. But instead of shutting things down, it made people look closer. Viewers started pointing out something strange. Ludacris didn't look confident, he looked tense. His eyes didn't show swagger, but stress, like someone worried a secret might spill. According to Katt, this situation was never just personal beef. It's a warning, a breakdown of what fame can cost. Katt says he may be exiled from parts of the industry, but he sleeps easy knowing his integrity is intact. Ludacris, on the other hand, praised on the big screen, remains tied to the image of the artist who, according to Katt, allowed the system to reshape him in exchange for power, protection, and money that came with a heavy price. This battle is far from finished. Katt Williams says 2024 is the year everything hidden comes to the surface. He insists he isn't crazy. He might be the only sane man left in an industry that's lost its mind. While most celebrities stay quiet to protect their careers, one man did the unthinkable. He spoke up, and instead of support, he became a living mirror, exposing how cruel the system really is. That man was Terry Crews. In 2016, at a high-profile Hollywood elite party, Terry and his wife, Rebecca, were enjoying the moment, surrounded by power and fame. Then a powerful talent agent, Adam Bennett, known for working with major stars, walked straight toward Terry. Right in front of Terry's wife, Bennett crossed a serious line with inappropriate behavior toward Terry. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't accidental. He then mocked Terry openly, staring him down in a way meant to intimidate. It was a blatant power move. Terry Crews is 6'3", built like a tank, a former NFL player who faced aggression on the field for years. Yet in that moment, he froze. Not from fear, but from shock. He pushed the man away and yelled, "What are you doing?" Bennett laughed. Not nervous laughter, confident laughter. The laugh of someone who believed he was untouchable. That moment burned into Terry's memory. Later, the world would ask Terry the same cruel question over and over. Why didn't you hit him? But in that instant, Terry's mind was racing. He wasn't calculating strength. He was calculating survival. One wrong move could have ended everything. If I swing, I become the scary black giant attacking a powerful white executive. I go to jail. My wife loses her husband. My kids lose their father. My career dies tonight. That's the brutal math Terry Crews says ran through his head in seconds. So he walked out of that party burning with rage and humiliation. On the drive home, he broke down. Not from pain, but from the shame of feeling powerless in a rigged system. In 2017, when the Me Too movement exploded, Terry decided silence was no longer an option. He stepped forward, reported the incident, and filed a lawsuit against Adam Bennett. That's when the Hollywood machine allegedly flipped the switch. Producer Avi Lerner, linked to the Expendables franchise, personally called Terry with a blunt warning. Drop the case against my friend or you're out. Terry refused to bend. And just like that, he was removed from a multi-million-dollar project. Doors started closing fast. Studios stopped calling. Katt Williams points to this moment as proof of how the system punishes truth tellers. What hurt Terry the most came next. He hoped the hip-hop community and fellow black artists would stand with him. Instead, he got silenced and ridiculed. Rapper 50 Cent posted a shirtless photo of Terry on Instagram with a mocking caption suggesting Terry was weak for not fighting back. To many watching, that moment showed how deep the pressure runs. Speak up, and even your own people might turn away. Comedian D.L. Hewley also jumped in publicly, mocking Terry Crews on radio and questioning how a man that big could let something like that happen. Instead of empathy, Terry was turned into a punchline. Courage got flipped into ridicule, built on toxic ideas of masculinity. What they missed, completely, was the real enemy. Terry wasn't facing one man. He was facing an entire power structure. Katt Williams later used Terry's story to land one of his most devastating points. When people ask, why doesn't anyone speak up about powerful figures? Katt says, look at Terry Crews. He did everything right. He had strength, money, fame, and respect. And the moment he told the truth, they tried to paint him as crazy, weak, and unemployable. Yes, Terry eventually succeeded in forcing Adam Bennett to step down. But Katt points out the cost was brutal. His reputation took a hit. His dignity was dragged. And the stain left in the public eye may never fully fade. And then there's another name Katt brings up, Chris Tucker. If anyone once had the world in his hands and suddenly walked away, it was him. By the late 1990s, Chris Tucker was the highest paid actor alive. He earned $25 million for Rush Hour 2 alone. But Katt insists Chris didn't step back because of faith, burnout, or laziness. Katt says he ran. He ran because he saw things he was never supposed to see. Katt calls him the man who escaped the island. And he isn't speaking randomly. He points to documented records showing Chris Tucker's name appearing in flight logs connected to Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. According to Katt, Chris was listed on a flight to Little St. James. After that era, he slowly disappeared from Hollywood's front lines. to Little St. James Island alongside politicians and A-list celebrities. Katt Williams is careful here. He suggests Chris Tucker was not a perpetrator, but a curious outsider who walked into something far darker than he expected. Chris is not built like that, Katt implied heavily. But once you step into certain rooms, the pressure alone can crack your spirit. And Katt says it didn't end with Epstein. According to him, Chris Tucker was also a familiar face at Diddy's legendary parties during their peak years. Over time, Katt believes Chris realized he was standing inside a dangerous network, one where information itself becomes a liability. The more you know, the less safe you are. And if you refuse to play along, the cost can be everything. That's where Katt frames Chris Tucker's story as the Great Escape, walking away from nearly $100 million, not for comfort, but for survival, to save his soul. Here's what makes it even more shocking. In 2001, after the massive success of Rush Hour 2, Chris Tucker became the highest paid actor on the planet, a record-breaking $25 million per movie. Hollywood rolled out a diamond-covered road, sequels, franchises, non-stop blockbusters waiting in line. And then, Chris slammed the brakes. He vanished from the big screen for nearly 6 full years. He returned briefly for Rush Hour 3 in 2007, then disappeared again. Why would someone at the absolute peak walk away from that kind of power? For years, Chris said he found faith and became a born-again Christian, turning down roles with crude language. But Katt Williams sees it differently. He believes faith wasn't the reason, it was the shield. A quiet exit strategy from a world Chris no longer wanted any part of. Katt Williams says once you put on the image of a man of God, the bosses relax. They assume you've lost your bite, lost your fire, and most importantly, won't talk. According to Katt, Chris Tucker accepted being quietly pushed out of Hollywood. He accepted millions in tax debt. He accepted a smaller, quieter life. Katt insists this wasn't failure, it was a trade. They let him live in peace, Katt claims, as long as everything he saw on that island and inside Diddy's house stayed buried forever. Silence in exchange for survival. Katt uses Chris Tucker's story to explain why an entire generation of black artists never spoke up. He believes Chris knows the truth about Diddy, knows the truth about Epstein, and yet never says a word publicly. Katt says he doesn't blame Chris, he pities him. Look in his eyes, Katt implies, the humor is gone. That's not the face of a carefree man. That's the look of someone who's seen real evil and understands he can't beat it head on. When Katt speaks out now, he says he's trying to pull people like Chris Tucker out of the shadows. He's sending a message. Fear only works when people are isolated. If everyone speaks together, the system can't silence them all. Chris Tucker, in Katt's view, is the clearest example of what happens when you know too much in Hollywood. He didn't submit like others. He wasn't publicly humiliated either. Like Terry Crews, Katt says Chris chose a third option, survival through silence. You can walk away from Hollywood, but Katt warns, you can never walk away from what you've already seen. That's the bitter ending of Chris Tucker's chapter. And according to Katt Williams, the next name to be exposed is even bigger, the mask of Steve Harvey, whom Katt labels as an agent of the system. While the public sees Steve Harvey as a lovable uncle figure, the clean suits, the big smile, the safe TV image, Katt Williams says he sees something completely different, an opportunist hiding in plain sight. According to Katt, behind Steve's glossy success is what he describes as a graveyard of stolen ideas and sidelined colleagues, pushed out with zero mercy. Katt reopened an old wound in the comedy world that never truly healed. He pointed straight to the relationship between Steve Harvey and Mark Curry, the star of Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Katt alleges that when Mark Curry was at his peak, Steve wasn't leading anything. He was watching from the sidelines, studying, taking notes. When the moment came, Katt claims Steve lifted Mark Curry's style, his timing, and even real-life comedy situations almost piece for piece to build the Steve Harvey Show. Mark Curry himself later spoke publicly, accusing Steve of taking his material and repackaging it for television. Katt calls this theft through power, when the person with bigger media backing absorbs the creativity of someone with less protection. But the tension doesn't stop there. According to Katt, things hit a boiling point when it came to the late, great Bernie Mac. Within the original Kings of Comedy, Bernie was the fan favorite. Raw, honest, unfiltered. And Katt says that edge made some people uncomfortable. Katt drops a shocking allegation. He claims Steve Harvey quietly tried to lobby behind the scenes to replace Bernie Mac in the blockbuster Ocean's 11. Nothing ever came of it, but Katt says the move exposed something deeper. In his view, this wasn't friendly competition. It was survival of the slickest in a system that rewards ambition over loyalty. Katt Williams says Steve wanted that role badly, wanted the spotlight. But the director chose Bernie Mac for one simple reason: real talent. Katt insists Steve always lived creatively in Bernie's shadow. And when Bernie passed away, instead of protecting his friend's legacy, Katt claims Steve tried to slide into that empty space by cleaning up his image to please white executives. In Katt's view, that meant abandoning the raw street-rooted comedy Bernie stood for. This is where Katt delivers his most serious accusation yet. He calls Steve Harvey an agent of the executives, not a voice for the black community, but a strategic pawn built to manage it. According to Katt, Steve's real role is teaching black people how to stay quiet, how to behave, how to dress, how to speak, so the bosses never feel uncomfortable. From self-help books aimed at women to constant moral lectures on television, Katt says it's all part of a larger domestication play. Not empowerment, containment. A soft voice telling people to fall in line. Katt even points to Steve's physical transformation. The high-top fade rooted in street culture, gone, replaced by a shaved head and glossy corporate suits. Katt mocks the idea that this was growth. He says it was a full shedding of skin, a rebrand into something safe, predictable, and boardroom approved. Then Katt asks the question nobody wants to touch. Why does someone accused by so many peers still host 5 or 6 major shows at the same time? Katt's answer is ruthless, because Steve follows orders, because he never pushes back. According to Katt, that obedience is why Steve keeps getting rewarded. He's the one they send in to calm the room, shut down rebellion, and deliver polished lectures wrapped in respectability. And that, Katt says, is the real mask Steve Harvey wears. On one side, Steve Harvey is sold as the ultimate American dream for black audiences. On the other side, Katt Williams paints a much colder picture. According to Katt, Steve didn't just climb the ladder, he pulled it up behind him, slamming the door on raw, fearless talent just to protect his spot as a trusted agent of the system. And inside black entertainment, Katt says there's a ghost story that never dies. A warning whispered to every rising artist who even thinks about rebellion. Say the name and the room goes quiet. Martin Lawrence. Through Katt's lens, Martin isn't just a fallen star. He's a warning example, a scapegoat, someone Hollywood deliberately used to scare an entire generation into obedience. In the 1990s, Martin Lawrence wasn't just famous, he was unstoppable. With Martin, he rewrote the rules, writing his own material, starring in it, controlling his own creative destiny. He wasn't just making jokes, he was shaping culture. Then came blockbuster films like Bad Boys and Life, pushing him into true leading man territory. Studios didn't choose Martin, Martin chose them. Katt says Martin embodied pride, a street-raised man walking into boardrooms full of white executives and speaking with authority. No fear, no bowing, and that confidence made him dangerous. But just when Martin believed he was untouchable, Katt says he crossed the ultimate line. He started saying no. No to quiet demands happening behind the scenes. No to pressure meant to control him.
No, so we were both invited to an Illuminati thing. One of us had to cut off all their hair and couldn't do the sideburn thing no more with the points. And the next person, they said, was going to get $200 million because they were going to pay him $10 million a movie to do 20 movies.
And Katt insists when a powerful A-list star suddenly gets labeled crazy, it's rarely random. It's not a breakdown, it's a message, a signal sent loud and clear to everyone watching. Katt Williams says moments like that are rarely random. He calls it a carefully staged character destruction campaign. The image of Martin Lawrence standing in the street in 1996, shouting and holding a weapon, became a scar that never fully healed. Katt insists Martin wasn't crazy. He says Martin was reacting to pressure and fear most people couldn't see. Overnight, major newspapers labeled Martin unstable, addicted, and dangerous. Behind the scenes, Katt claims Hollywood quietly pushed one message: don't work with him, he'll destroy your project. Just like that, Martin went from hero to exile, from king to isolation. Katt Williams says this exact playbook explains his own disappearance too. According to Katt, Martin was one of the earliest victims of what he calls the breaking strategy. They don't need to end you physically. They just need to kill your credibility. Once the public believes you're unstable, Katt says, anything you claim about abuse or corruption gets dismissed instantly. Martin became the textbook example of what happens when someone refuses to bow to powerful gatekeepers. Even when Martin later returned to Hollywood, Katt argues the damage was done. The fire was gone. The sharp edge dulled, replaced by caution and silence. A living example of how the system doesn't just punish, it reshapes. Then Katt pivots to a new name, Tiffany Haddish, the instant star, and what Katt describes as the manufacturing of a false icon. Katt dropped a brutal question on Shannon Sharpe. Can you name a Tiffany Haddish stand-up show where people were lining up for tickets before Hollywood decided to choose her? To Katt, that question cuts straight to the heart of how stars are made. Not by crowds, but by gatekeepers deciding who gets pushed next. Katt Williams argues that in real comedy, talent takes time to cook. 15, 20 years of bombing, learning, sharpening instincts. He points to veterans like Luenell as proof. Real skill is earned, not rushed. But Tiffany Haddish, Katt says, was lifted straight to the top almost overnight after Girls Trip. According to Katt, that jump wasn't organic. He insists there are dozens of black female comedians who are sharper, tougher, and more seasoned, but they were pushed aside. Why? Katt says it's simple. They're too real, too independent, too hard to manage. Hollywood, Katt claims, wanted a new face, someone easy to mold, someone who would perform on cue without pushing back. And that, in his view, had nothing to do with pure comedy skill. This is where Katt delivers his most cutting critique yet. He openly questions Tiffany Haddish's stand-up ability. Katt claims the laughter in her specials comes from editing, crowd prep, and hype, not timeless jokes. He challenges people to name a truly classic Tiffany joke. In his words, there's noise, not material. Katt frames her storytelling as exaggerated personal moments designed to pull sympathy rather than land punchlines. And he suggests her rise wasn't accidental. It was strategic. According to Katt, Hollywood needed a black woman who looked loud and wild on the surface, but was obedient underneath. A symbol that felt edgy without ever threatening the power structure. Her non-stop visibility, award shows, interviews, headlines. Katt calls it a coordinated push, a campaign to make the public accept her as a star, whether or not the skill matched the spotlight. In Katt's worldview, this isn't about hate, it's about control and who gets chosen to represent comedy at the highest level. This, Katt Williams says, is how Hollywood programs taste. They tell you who the star is and expect you to clap on command. According to Katt, artists who rise through real skill, like himself or Dave Chappelle, develop sharp instincts and deep caution toward the system. They've been burned, tested, humbled. In contrast, Katt claims industry-made products are often blinded by non-stop praise that isn't earned. Katt argues that when someone lacks a solid professional foundation, they're more likely to chase outside stimulation to fill the gaps. Attention replaces discipline, validation replaces craft. Katt says reality followed that script. He pointed to Tiffany Haddish's legal troubles. 2 DUI arrests, one in Georgia in 2022 and another in Beverly Hills in 2023, as the exact pattern he warned about. After those incidents, Katt notes how endorsement deals stalled and film opportunities started wobbling. To him, Tiffany's gradual cooling off wasn't mercy. It was proof of Hollywood's cold math. You're useful until you're not. In Katt's words, Tiffany Haddish is like a moth drawn to a blinding light, unaware that the glow comes from a furnace built to burn out legacies. Then Katt's tone shifted hard. When he brought up Faison Love, the sarcasm vanished. Katt didn't just call him a weak actor, he labeled him a systemic failure. Katt delivered a ruthless breakdown. He claimed Faison Love never built an independent career. Instead, Katt says he's been boxed into forgettable supporting roles, used as the funny side character to prop up real stars. Katt challenges anyone to name a truly iconic Faison Love stand-up performance. In his view, that silence says everything. This wasn't personal. It was another example, Katt says, of how the system rewards familiarity over mastery and noise over substance. He has no material, no real point of view, and no loyal audience, Katt Williams declares. So how does someone Katt considers untalented survive in Hollywood for decades? Katt's answer is simple and brutal: submission. According to Katt, Faison Love stayed afloat by constantly criticizing and bad-mouthing other black artists, especially those who challenged the system. Katt claims Faison took shots at people like himself and Dave Chappelle, not for truth, but to stay in good standing with studio executives. Say what they like, attack who they don't. Katt also mocks Faison for clinging to his Friday role as Big Worm nearly 30 years later, as if that single character were a lifetime achievement. Katt insists that outside of that nostalgia, Faison holds little real commercial value today. In Katt's view, Faison Love represents exactly what Hollywood prefers: loud enough to get attention, familiar enough to recognize, but weak enough to always seek approval. Never threatening, never leading, always orbiting. Katt makes it clear he's not telling these stories to gain sympathy. He's mapping the...
Yeah, Fort McClellan. Yeah, What?
Because the reason why like my life works in golf and off the golf course is because I follow instruction well, right? So if I see somebody do a good job, I just want to do a good job.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow the example.
Yeah.
Right? So Tyler Perry got a military base.
That's correct.
Made it into a movie studio and started making movies.
And inside what Katt calls his blacklist, one name stands out as the most confusing of all. Jamie Foxx! Unlike others labeled sellouts or failures, Jamie gets something different from Katt. Respect mixed with deep suspicion. Katt calls him the survivor, the only one smart enough to dance with wolves without getting ripped apart. Jamie Foxx, according to Katt, mastered the art of survival. Not hiding, not rebelling, but moving with precision. Katt has never denied Jamie's talent because Jamie is undeniable. From In Living Color to an Oscar-winning transformation as Ray Charles, Jamie Foxx isn't just a performer, he's a force of nature. And that, Katt suggests, is exactly why his story is the most dangerous one to tell. Jamie Foxx didn't just win in one lane, he dominated all of them. Billboard #1 hits, Grammy Awards on the shelf, Oscar-winning performances. Jamie stands as living proof that a black artist can reach the absolute peak of music, comedy, and film without being carried there by anyone. But Katt Williams raises a painful, uncomfortable question. How does a genius that bright survive peacefully inside a system designed to crush free spirits? Katt points to what he calls Jamie's survival intelligence. While artists like Martin Lawrence, or Katt himself, were publicly broken and labeled unstable, Jamie moved differently. When storms start brewing around powerful names or elite industry parties, Jamie doesn't rush to comment. He doesn't defend, he doesn't accuse, he disappears. Katt notes that Jamie reappears only when the sky is clear, usually alongside a clean media rollout or a major film release. Perfect timing, no fingerprints, no controversy. According to Katt, Jamie understands something most don't. He implies Jamie may hold knowledge of Hollywood's darkest code, but instead of firing shots like Katt, Jamie uses that knowledge as armor. Silence becomes protection. Information becomes leverage. Katt uses Jamie Foxx's story to expose what he says is a brutal industry truth. Hollywood doesn't destroy everyone. It only destroys the ones who resist openly. And Katt makes one thing clear. He's not telling these stories for sympathy. He doesn't need validation. He speaks because some truths don't exist unless someone is willing to say them out loud. In Katt's world, silence keeps the machine running. And speaking, no matter the cost, is the only way to crack it. 9 names, 9 black men, 9 very different paths to fame. And according to Katt Williams, the common thread was never talent, grind, or luck. It was a silent price, one you don't see on contracts or hear in acceptance speeches. Katt says, Hollywood doesn't need you to sell your soul on camera. They just need you to understand the rules. Know when to laugh, when to bow, and most importantly, when to stay quiet. Break that silence. And the system reminds you who's really in control. Katt doesn't call this a conspiracy. He calls it a system, one that's been running for decades, untouched, unchecked, and protected by fear. So now it's on you. If these stories made you think, question, or look at fame differently, don't stay silent. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and drop a comment. Whose story shocked you the most? We're just getting started.